On tonight's episode, we cover the Emmys, we cover Fleabag, we cover Phoebe Waller-Bridge, and much more. I'm Garrett.
I'm Joe.
I'm Nate. This is the Aliens and Cowboys podcast.
Welcome back in, guys. Joe, welcome. Haven't
Thank
had
you.
for a couple weeks.
I know. It felt really weird to be absent, but I'm glad to be back. Ready to go, man.
Our listeners are glad you're back.
Well,
because
thank
we
you,
had
guys.
a tough last week's episode.
Ooh, okay.
It just feels good.
Yes.
Yeah. Getting the band back together, right?
Yeah, the originals.
I got Garrett on my right and Joe and all his bearded manliness on my left. Feeling good about it.
That's right.
Yeah.
No, tonight's
That'll be a good
episode is
one.
going to be a good one. Joe, Nate, and I back together again. Nelly, he is out for this week, but he's perched up. He at least should be perched up right now,
yeah.
getting ready for hunting season. So, which really weird. Nelly was never a hunter growing up, so I don't know how he got into this. It's very awkward that he's a hunter, I think. Although he's promising us some deer jerky if he gets it. So we're okay
Hell
with him
yeah.
renting him
Deer
out to the
jerky.
wild for a couple weeks.
We're going
He
to
has
hold you
bring
to
us
that.
Provisions.
That's right. But Joe, welcome back again. Haven't
Thank
seen you for a
you.
couple
Yeah,
weeks.
it's good to be back.
We might have to get your opinion on a couple topics that we covered while you were gone.
Sure. Yeah.
And then we have a couple things we're going to go into tonight. We're going to hit hard on the Emmys. There's some interesting takes. There's some great conversations. Some history of the Emmys, some snubs, as well as we'll just go into some random, obviously, pop culture conversations later.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere you guys want to start, or do you guys want to jump in? You know what? How about this? We'll start with some listener feedback. So
yeah,
last
I
week,
think that's a good place to start.
last week we had a rough episode. Some of the listener feedback
It
was...
did not go unnoticed.
Yeah, I hear you. I think that we need to make sure that we are all on the same page of what the criteria is when we are trying to have a discussion on maybe top shows, characters, whatever it is, so that we can compare and contrast similar criteria.
Agreed. I'm not a mind reader.
I knew what I was doing. The directions of the text were fine. I think Joe would have got it.
You should have sent it in emoticons.
Wingdings.
Yeah, there you go.
So I don't even, and it's so bad. I don't even think Joe listened to the episode yet.
I have not listened to it yet.
The
I'm
best
sorry.
part was,
I usually
so-
try to listen to the ones, all of them,
Yeah.
but I have not listened
Well,
to
Nate doesn't listen to him at all.
I subscribe though.
Yeah. What's funny though is I got some listener feedback, like negative listener feedback on this last episode, and then Nelly texts me and goes, "Great episode." He was so excited about the episode. It was so funny. So Nelly, we miss you. I know you're going to listen to this, so we're not going to rag any too hard. Hopefully, you caught a deer last night, or tonight. And we will see you in a week or two. He might be out for a couple weeks as obviously hunting season is starting, so he'll be back. Joe, one thing I wanted to ask you, because this was a conversation that we should have had with you. We talked about Charles Xavier and Magneto and Disney turning them black. I don't want to go into a huge debate on this again since we covered this last week, but I do want to have the conversation. Just get your opinion on, do you see why Marvel would be doing this? Do you agree with it? Do you think it would be a bad decision? What is your stance?
Sure. First of all, I can absolutely see where Marvel's coming from with this, and also Disney, of course, kind of overseeing everything. So I can totally understand where they're coming from in the interest of diversifying what has largely been a not very diverse cast, at least in terms of superhero movies. So I can absolutely understand why they'd be wanting to do this. In terms of, do I think it can succeed? Yeah, absolutely. This doesn't bother me at all. I think we talked about this a bit with James Bond as well. We've talked about different ways James Bond could be brought back to the big screen for future installments. We know Daniel Craig's returning, right? But beyond Daniel Craig, who's it going to be? We don't know yet. So we've had some conversations about that, and this kind of reminded me of that. Just as I mentioned how James Bond has had so much time to do his own thing in a way that most people already think of James Bond being James Bond, the rugged, manly man, right? And how I mentioned we've gotten to a point we can do something different. Like, let's try something different. I think that's a good thing. I feel the same way about this. So we have the comics. Everybody knows at this point, whether you're a casual comic book movie viewer, whether you are a diehard comic book fan, we get it. We know who Magneto and we know who Charles Xavier are at this point. So let's change it up a bit. I'm all for it. I think something, if we're going to reboot, because keep this in mind too, you guys. We've now had the original X-Men series from early 2000s. We had it rebooted. And now, undoubtedly, we will reboot it yet again, all within a span of 20 years, maybe let's say 25 years, because the official details have not come out for what the script's going to look like or anything like that. But we're undoubtedly getting another reboot with these characters. I don't want to see the same thing rehashed again. So, in a similar vein to James Bond and similar iterations, although each interpretation has been slightly different, I'm ready for something new there. Same thing. I'm fine with something new here. Let's get some new people cast. Let's take the story in new directions. Let's try to be more inclusive. That didn't bother me at all.
I got 2 questions for you.
Hit me with them.
First question is going to be, we had a similar conversation about how Batman, it just doesn't seem like they put Batman to bed at all. We've had consistent Batman since Michael Keaton, like what, 90, is it 89, 92? Around
Late
the time
80s, early
period.
90s. Somewhere around there.
And we've had
Tim
plenty
Burton.
of them. And nobody seems to get tired of Batman, which is fine. I'm just curious if at some point we'll get Batman fatigue, because we've had so many, maybe they put it to bed. I'm wondering if, because they have so much coming out for Marvel, that they just don't do an X-Men for a while. Give it 5 years.
Yeah.
Let it sit. Let it relax. Do you agree with that? Or do you think they should just capitalize on the fact that they've got this IP now and they can put their own stamp on X-Men and they should go with it now because they're pretty successful?
No, they need to pump the brakes. They absolutely need to sit on this a while, figure out what they're doing, how to incorporate them into their movie universe, because they are undoubtedly going to continue forward with the MCU in some capacity as well. So they need to figure out how to properly incorporate them without oversaturating the X-Men market, so to speak. So I think they need to hold off.
I disagree with you and agree with you at the same time.
Okay.
So I agree with
no
you.
straddling right there.
Whoa. Yeah, no straddling. I agree with you with the standpoint that like they really need to think out how they integrate the X-Men into the Marvel universe, right? I disagree from like a business standpoint to say they bought the rights to these characters. They need a return on investment. They're going to start pumping these guys into these movies as soon as they see plausible into the grand scheme of things. What are we on? Marvel Phase 4?
We're going into
four
phase
now?
4. Yep.
I wouldn't be surprised if they start pumping in the most popular characters very, very soon into these movies. I don't know, 2 years out, we'll see the first X-Men easy.
Especially since they lost Spider-Man. Even though they didn't own Spider-Man, they obviously lost a character that they had in these films.
Yeah.
I think whether it's X-Men or it's Deadpool or it's Fantastic Four, that's why I'm saying maybe don't lead with X-Men. Maybe lead with Fantastic Four.
I was going to say, I could see them rebooting Fantastic Four before X-Men.
Right, and I think it's because there's been enough time in between. The other ones were not good. And
Right.
granted, Dark Phoenix, we've not seen it. We acknowledge it's not good. But still, like, we've had a lot of X-Men movies. I'm interested to see where they take it. I would tell you this right now. Launch the cartoon. I heard rumors that they're going to put the cartoon on Disney Plus.
Yes.
I heard
it.
those same
Get
rumors.
that cartoon.
Saw that
Same
today.
with the Spider-Man series
Yes.
from the 90s.
Yes.
That has
gold.
me super excited. Yes,
That doesn't get old.
Like, they just
No.
shut up, take my money kind of thing.
Which we had
They-
that conversation about X-Men Night of the Sentinels, the very first episode of the X-Men cartoon series, and the character Morph we talked about when I was saying let's start an X-Men TV show around Jubilee. Like,
Oh, that'd be cool.
Get a female character in there if that's what we need to do, since that's where we seem to be pivoting everything. Let her run it. Get some, map it off that TV show.
I wouldn't do it around Jubilee. She's a terrible X-Men.
Well, bring in people like
Someone with more
Sinister.
powers than Jubilee.
Well, it's a whole. You could use that to your advantage to tell the story. depending
I
on
will
what
say
kind of
this:
story you
I'm
want.
not anti-Jubilee. I don't know much about her character outside of the TV show. That's
Yeah,
that's my only reference. To
I
it.
don't know much more beyond that.
As
either,
a
admittedly.
child, though, I thought, why is she shooting fireworks out of her hands?
Those are
Like,
plasmoids.
they look like fireworks. You know what I mean? And she had this like
The sound effect was definitely a firework.
well, she had an outfit that reminded me of like Doc Brown from Back to the Future 2.
Yes.
With like the glasses and the yellow jacket. I thought she was coming
Yeah.
out of the
That's funny.
Oh yeah, she was just a girl out of time.
No, not saying Mandalorian. DeLorean. Sorry, I said Mandalorian. Sorry, Star Wars on the brain. DeLorean.
You got man on the brain.
Man on the brain. Okay, my next question then, Joe, just to put to bed some stuff from last week.
Sure.
I make the comment that I feel like if you make these characters both black and we make them, one's militant, one's anti-militant, we're kind of rehashing a very similar theme to Black Panther. Do you agree? Do you disagree?
I think some of the themes could certainly carry through between Black Panther and the new X-Men movies, if that's the direction they choose to take. But I think outside of how that looks on the surface, there's a lot more depth that they could pursue, so to speak, with X-Men. Just because of power levels, the dynamic of the X-Men themselves is very different than what we see in Black Panther. So once again, on the surface, sure, maybe that conflict between the two leads there is similar to a certain extent, but beyond that, I can see them taking the plot a ton of different directions where it won't seem like a carbon copy of Black Panther. So I'm not worried about that
That's
either.
fine. Sorry, I lied. I got an extra question for you.
No, that's fine.
2 questions. Sorry, double lie. Do you want them to be younger or older? So, like in the original X-Men, they are older people.
Yep.
In the reboot of the X-Men, they're younger. Do you want them an older version of them or a younger version of them? And then my follow-up question to that will be, do you have any idea who you would like to be the actors to portray them?
Ooh, that's also a good one.
Okay. Question number 1 first.
Yeah.
At what age would you like Magneto and Xavier?
You jump on this too because we didn't talk about that part last week.
Okay, I'll
What do you think?
jump in first.
Oh, go ahead.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I think I like the earlier age of them where they're still kind of developing who they are as a character and how they become the people that they are.
Okay.
Not so much that they're set in stone where they are in like the original, 1999 X-Men, where you just get Xavier versus Magneto and that's who they are and they're stuck in their ways. But like how they become the way they are. I think their origin stories are awesome. Just how you follow how they become.
Saying they're going to alter the origin story,
which I think is that much more powerful, especially into how they become. Because we already know like what their powers are. We want to know like what their motivations are as a character. I think.
Okay, that's fair.
I think it's been very successful in Hollywood to find like character studies on comic book characters. Point in case, the Joker.
Yeah.
Coming out this October.
Do you have any idea who you would want to play a younger version of him?
That I'm at a loss.
Yeah, I have no idea. I don't have an idea for younger version. Older version, like I'm throwing around this idea of like Idris Elba playing Magneto.
Yeah.
And Mahershala Ali playing Xavier.
That came to mind for me as well.
That's the only 2 I can think of, but they would be older. They'd have to be older. They can't be younger.
That's what, to pivot off of what you said, Nate, that is what I would like to see as well.
Younger?
No, older. Sorry. I would like to see them a little bit older.
Okay.
And I get, you did bring up a good point, because if they are going to change some things about the characters from what we already know from the comics, you kind of have to do a little bit more of an origin. You have to explain a little bit more at that point. But at the same time, we've seen so much of it. I agree as well, Nate. We know their powers. Like, I don't necessarily need to have that explained to me unless they do something completely different with those, which that part I do not anticipate them doing. I think they're going to keep their powers the same, regardless of who they cast. But I don't really need to see the origins for really any of these superheroes anymore. I don't want to work.
Where has that worked really successfully? I forget who. Spider-Man.
Spider-Man.
Yeah, you're right.
Spider-Man.
You don't see Uncle Ben
Yep.
die.
We just went into it. We knew what it was.
We're just fine.
Same with Batman.
It's also been
Granted, you
rebooted.
get flashbacks.
It was the 3rd time it's been rebooted too.
Right.
So,
but kind of the first X-Men back in 2000 with Bryan Singer, you don't get a lot of the origin. You get Rogue's origin, but like Wolverine,
you just get that mutants aren't accepted in society.
Right. You kind of just keep going. Like some of the people are already where they're at. I thought that was very successful too.
Agreed. Yeah, and I think that's what DC should have done. Not to go down that rabbit hole, which is a very easy rabbit hole to fall into, but not doing the standalone. We've talked about this. Not doing the standalones, not doing all the origins. It's just like, give us Justice League. Like, we get it. We know Batman. We know Superman. We know Wonder Woman. Just give us Justice League already. That's the first movie, is the Justice League. So similar to that. Like, I don't need to see everybody's backstory. Don't need a ton of stuff explained. If you really need to incorporate a flashback,
I don't need a Cyborg movie. I don't know how Cyborg is going to carry a film.
Well, I think a lot of those standalones are in like development hell right now, aren't they? Or have they been confirmed officially?
They should be in development hell. How would Cyborg carry a movie? I don't understand the concept of how he's going to be leading his own film. But
I don't know.
Digressing. Either way. Okay.
It's a cool character. I just don't think it carries any weight for its own film.
Yeah, he's definitely a tertiary
you're right.
character. Yeah. Great. Joe, that's why I'm glad you're back.
Thanks,
no
guys.
knock on Nate.
Glad to be back.
But some of your knowledge is different than others. But let's get into the Emmys. I'm excited for this Emmys conversation because I prepared this for a couple days. So the goal of this conversation is going to be to talk about who won some of the bigger awards. We're not going to talk about every single category. We're going to debate if somebody else should have won them, understanding that we have not seen every show. So I'm going to throw it out there. There's so much time. We've talked about how much content there is that you can't possibly watch everything unless your job is to officially watch television.
Do Emmys come from critics? Are they voted by critics or
Yes.
like associated? Okay, critics. All right.
So this was the 71st Emmys. Some of the things that were interesting about this, there was no host for this show.
Yeah, that's right.
They haven't had a host since I think it's 2003. Also, the ratings were down 33% for this show. And they were down 11% the year before. So that's 43% down in 2 years.
Yikes.
I think it's 44%, right? 33 and
Apologies,
11?
44. Yeah, math, not a math magician.
It's okay. That's why we're a trifecta.
That's right.
that's very
See?
true.
Look at that.
Math.
People covering for other people. Yeah. We couldn't do that last week, though. Ehrlich Bachman over here. Ehrlich Bachman and Kiefer Sutherland were on my left and my right last week. Couldn't do anything. But no host, down 33% this year. Down to like 6.9 million viewers. That's it. Now,
But don't they sell the ads before they get the views?
probably.
So it's only going to hurt them next year.
Why do you think this is? And I don't want to get into a huge politically charged conversation about viewership. I, for one, didn't watch this show. I don't watch award shows because I don't agree with liberal elite, not just say liberal, elites giving themselves, like millionaires giving themselves trophies. Okay? And then making everything a politically charged conversation.
Yeah, if you could just spell my name correctly, it's LTG5. No, I'm just kidding.
So, your guys' thoughts. Why do you feel like ratings are down?
I just don't think people care about it as much anymore. Regardless of like politics aside, I just don't think the interest is there because we have once again so much content. Somebody's going to like what they like and they don't care who else likes it. They can find their own show that fulfills their niche and run with it. So, of course, their show's not going to win. Of course, they're not going to tune in to see, oh, gosh, I really hope this random show that no one's heard about that I really love gets an award. And if it doesn't get an award, my last 2 months spent watching this show is meaningless. Like, nobody cares.
Well,
myself included to a certain extent. Like, I find this very interesting. You actually you got me interested in this topic, Garrett. So I was also reading up on it. And the more I read about it, I'm like, okay, this is a cool topic. I like where we're going to take this. But I don't think I've ever once really intentionally tuned in to be like, I'm going to sit down and watch the Emmys or sit down and watch the Oscars.
so
Like,
I used to watch the
don't care
Academy
about it.
Awards. I liked that. I thought they were fun. They were neat. I don't care for it anymore. What's neat though about this is a show. We'll talk about Fleabag in a little bit here.
Yeah.
But I talked to a couple people, family members. So I talked to my mother. I talked to my mother-in-law. Both people didn't really know much about Fleabag. So it's like some of these people don't know. It's like when you watch the Academy Awards and the best picture is 5 films you haven't seen. That's not fun.
Right.
How do I have an opinion on a show I haven't seen? And it's still in an age where obviously there are a lot of people that have streaming services. There's a lot of people that have multiple streaming services. There's still a segment of the population that doesn't stream outside of their digital cable or their DirecTV, right? So some of these shows, there's just no following for yet. I mean, we'll get to it in a second, but Fleabag has a very small following compared to something like Game of Thrones even.
Yeah, that's true.
So, but let's talk about some of these shows that win. So nominations.
What's the category?
Well, this is simply nominations right now. Game of Thrones led the nominations with 14. Okay. HBO led with 47. Netflix came with 30, which I was actually surprised for. And then there's a lot of nominations in networks. So there's, let's see here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15 different networks.
Dang.
Which I'll kind of speak to that and how impressive that is in the next probably hour and a half that we do this.
Oh, Jesus.
Get
Buckle up.
strap on. Dave.
I'm with you, listeners.
So let's do the series first, and then we'll get into the acting. So outstanding comedy series, Fleabag wins, and it won the night with 4. It won the most nominations, so it was nominated, but it won 4 times. So pretty impressive. It beats out HBO's Barry, The Good Place, Marvelous Miss Maisel, which won a lot last year, The Russian Doll from Netflix, Schitt's Creek, and Veep. Does anybody have any problem? Now, let's be honest. The 3 of us have not seen Fleabag, correct?
No, I have not.
Nate?
I can't hold a candle to it. I've never seen it.
So, in preparation for this, I watched the very first episode of the show tonight. And
Good homework, bud.
It was a quick watch. It's 25 minutes, 26 minutes.
Okay.
So, I believe, from my understanding, there's 6 episodes per season. There's only going to be 2 seasons, so this show's already done, which is very fascinating.
It's
I
6
really
hours.
liked that
It's 6
about
recorded hours to watch, right?
That's it.
Yeah. Which I think is
Not
awesome. I'm a big fan. I've commented on this before about shows that tell the story that they want to tell and then are comfortable with putting a bow on it and moving on to the next thing. I think shows more often than not, nicely done. I think shows more often than not are stronger when they do that, rather than a network getting a hold of it and trying to just drag this poor show out long past its expiration date.
Just
So,
milking it.
Like Dexter and Weeds.
Yeah, so on its surface, without having seen a single episode of this, that really appeals to me on just a creative aspect where I've told the story I want to tell, I'm going to stop and I'm going to move on. Aside from that, content saturation, knowing that this show is in that format and that I can watch its entirety in a reasonable amount of time, also very appealing. So,
I agree with you on that too, because we were talking the other day about the daunting task it is, and as odd as it sounds, anxiety you will get to try to start a show that's 200 episodes long.
yeah.
First world problems.
It is.
Very
No,
true.
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, this is not like, this is not a, like...
Oh, God.
Yeah, it's like gun to my head here. But like there are shows that we were talking about, if you don't watch certain shows now, you're going to get so far behind because of how much content comes out and how many new networks are popping up that you're not going to ever be able to see it.
Yeah.
My biggest one I would want to start is Blue Bloods. That is 9 seasons long with 22 episodes a season at like an hour apiece. That is such a daunting task that I've still not touched it. Like, that's like a magnum opus. That's just like a lot. And again, I don't have to watch it. I want to watch it. I also don't want to put myself in something where I'm watching 200 hours of TV.
Yeah, that too.
Okay?
Yeah, right.
I mean, of course I do. Of course I do. But that's something interesting. And I talked to you earlier about the show. I usually have one show that I'm watching that's brand new, that I've never seen, while I'm simultaneously watching a show that is older, like to kind of keep things going, right? So I'm watching something I'm trying to catch up on, and I'm watching something that's out currently. And I keep a list. Shows I've completed, shows I need to complete, and shows I need to start.
Jeez, you're a nerd. You actually
That's
keep a
preparation for this show.
You actually keep a list?
I keep 3 lists.
It's quite extensive.
I feel like my homework is hard enough.
You
I have to watch what movie this week?
Yeah, you guys complained when I gave you 1 movie a week to watch, 7 days for 2 hours.
Wow, sometimes your instructions suck.
To what instructions? Watch this movie.
Wow, I'm more alluding to the previous
It's
episode.
true. Joe just said the outline never changed categorically what we covered.
I know.
But, so, digressing.
Call me an outlier.
Yeah. So, Fleabag wins. Do you guys have... It's hard to say it doesn't deserve to win. So let's not say it doesn't deserve to win. Are you surprised that another show didn't win? How about that?
I wouldn't say I'm necessarily surprised, especially not after learning about Fleabag and really the critical acclaim it seems to have garnered up to this point. So, without being an expert by any means on any of the shows, admittedly, in that same category, I haven't seen much of any of them, sadly, so I can't comment directly on that. But it seems, just based on word of mouth, like a pretty competitive list of potential winners of those nominees.
Okay.
So seeing Phoebe Waller-Bridge's Fleabag win that, especially with, once again, all the critical acclaim that she's received as producer, writer, actress across the board, that makes total sense to me.
And we'll talk about her in a little bit too,
Yeah.
because I want to talk. I'm very, very impressed with her, and I don't think right now there's any other person like her right now.
Yeah.
Actor or actress.
Agreed.
I have seen Barry. I have seen some episodes of The Good Place, and I've seen all of Veep. I watched all of Veep this year, so I've seen the whole thing. I'm kind of shocked that Veep didn't win here. Now, the show itself has won Emmys. Julia Louis-Dreyfus is like tied for the most female actress Emmys. I shouldn't say female actress Emmys wins. I think like 6. So I mean, she's winning.
Okay, gotcha.
Because it's the final season of that show. So I'm kind of shocked, but I guess it's the final season of Fleabag. It makes sense.
That's true. Final season of quite a few
of
actually,
these,
almost.
right?
Yeah.
I've not seen Schitt's Creek. I've not seen Russian Doll. My wife is huge into Marvelous Miss Maisel.
Okay.
So I was trying to talk to her about Fleabag, and she's not necessarily a fan of British television, so I don't know if she'll watch this or not. So my wife is a diehard Grey's Anatomy fan. It's her favorite show. I don't understand why that show still exists. It's like 18 seasons of people dying every episode in this hospital. Their mortality rate is like 100%. Okay? But she watched Marvelous Mrs. Maisel, and she said it's the best show she's ever seen. I mean, she says by far it's the greatest show.
Bar none.
And I've never heard anybody say anything negative about it. I've never watched it. Rachel Brosnahan is great, though. I know her from House of Cards, a couple other things. It won a couple of awards here tonight, which we'll talk about. And obviously, it swept a lot last year. So I'm not shocked it didn't win. It's just very interesting because if you think about that, 2 years in a row as Outstanding Comedy, Miss Maisel, which is a heavily female-dominated show, and now Fleabag, heavily female-dominated show, is taking everything. So, interesting viewpoint. Let's go forward to drama series.
Yeah.
This one we'll probably have a little bit more of a discussion on because we covered it, but Game of Thrones wins Best Drama.
Ta-da!
So it beats out Better Call Saul, The Bodyguard, Killing Eve, Ozark. I'm going to mess this up. Is it Pose for FX?
How do you spell it?
It's P-O-S-E.
Pose, yeah.
Okay.
I'd say.
Succession and This Is Us.
Okay.
Now, what's ironic, though, is talking about Fleabag. So Phoebe Waller-Bridge, which we briefly mentioned, is, I believe, an executive producer of Killing Eve.
Okay, yeah.
So
that's right.
she's nominated
Conflict of
arguably for that, too.
Yeah.
I'm a huge Succession fan. Like I said, I'm on the record saying Succession Season 2 is the best show that's on television. I am not shocked that Season 1 did not win this. So I'm not surprised about that. I've heard great things about Killing Eve. I would probably say I'm surprised that Killing Eve didn't win. But Game of Thrones is a magnum opus. It is a phenomenal 8-season run of a show that's probably arguably the most successful show of all time. You could make that argument.
Yeah.
But it's sad that because it's definitely not the best season of the show has. And it's probably not even in the top.
That's so
3
interesting.
seasons.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what are your guys' thoughts on that? Let's just talk about this because we covered Game of Thrones. So let's briefly go into, do we believe Game of Thrones deserved to win Outstanding Drama this year?
I would say no.
How about if no other show existed? Do you just believe that Game of Thrones should have won an Outstanding Drama award?
No.
No.
I agree. I don't
Yeah.
either.
Is there full consensus?
Yeah. Look at that.
And don't get me wrong, it's won other, plenty of other awards.
Sure. I think, and we talked a little bit about this before this episode, but it definitely seems like, I don't want to say it was a pity vote for that, but it kind of was. Like, here's a story that has captivated people's imaginations for years, and its legacy and its overall success, of course, is very important. It is still a benchmark and will likely long be a benchmark by which many other shows will be measured. But if we're trying to take this objectively as season 8 as what gives them the potential to win an Emmy, then it's not a strong finish. Like, I think they definitely were able to secure that victory off of the goodwill of the previous seasons and taken as a whole, not off of season 8 by itself.
I agree. I think it's probably 4 other seasons that are better than the final season of Game of Thrones.
I mean, it definitely comes off as a Lifetime Achievement Award.
Yeah, it does.
Right.
Well, especially
Good
because they
point.
had
Good point.
members of the cast come up
Yeah.
during the Emmys
Yeah.
and give like a farewell presentation. And
Yeah.
Garrett, you made a good point earlier too, where they do, I think, kind of a compilation of
It's
final
like
seasons of shows.
You know how they do it, like when actors pass away, actors and actresses, they do like in memoriam?
Yeah.
They did that for the shows now that are leaving.
Okay.
Which if you think about the shows that are ending, Veep, Game of Thrones, Fleabag, Big Bang Theory. Like, you're talking about some big time Hall of Fame style shows.
Yeah, some high profile stuff.
Yeah, and and this isn't to knock Game of Thrones either because every network is obviously looking out for the next Game of Thrones.
Yeah.
So this
Exactly.
is not to say Game of Thrones doesn't deserve all the accolades it gets. I'm just saying this particular season, I'm not sure it deserves to win Best Drama. Maybe it just seems like everything else had a down year. Again, can't really speak to it. Like Ozark's in here, right? And I haven't seen The Bodyguard.
Have you seen Ozark?
I've seen the first season of Ozark. I have not seen the second season.
I really enjoy that.
Well, and Nellie's huge into Ozark, so
But
this would be...
a lot of people say it's like a Breaking Bad knockoff. But
Yeah.
it does have like a nice pivot or twist to it. It's kind of cool.
It's not bad. Like I said, I've seen the first season. I thought it was okay. For some reason, though, I just can't get through the second season. That's it. Okay. This Is Us. I know that's won some awards. So
Yeah,
regardless.
that's a really popular one.
I don't feel like
talking about that all the
I
time.
don't feel like crying, so I don't watch that show.
Yeah, see, if I'm going into a show too where the goal is to make me cry, I'm gonna go into it so guarded that any emotional effect it otherwise would have had, it just won't have at that point.
You're probably just sitting there flexing with your arms crossed the whole
I'm not
time.
crying. I'm not
right?
crying. You're crying.
I'm not crying. Yeah.
Well, you are.
Movies like Guardians of the Galaxy 2, there's a perfect example. Like, I cried like a baby at the end of that because the ending caught me just so completely off guard.
I watched that movie. I don't remember the ending. Why did you cry?
It's when Yondu's going up into like they're trying to evacuate with Peter Quill, and he transfers the shield on over to Peter Quill, and like he's sacrificed. I don't know, something about it just really hit.
Just really resonated.
Just really resonated. I don't know why. Like most Marvel movies, just make me feel kind of happy, and obviously there's loss in these movies, but the tone still kept pretty light. Like I've never cried at another Marvel movie. Right, but it caught me so off guard.
You haven't seen Endgame.
True. Still not embarrassingly seen Endgame. So, but yeah, I guess that's my point. It caught me so off guard for whatever reason. What resonated with me emotionally, just like boom, was not anticipating it. Whereas a show like This Is Us is like, okay, I know this show's trying to make me cry, so it's not going to make me cry. Like I don't know. Sorry, that was a tangent.
I avoided to look more like a man.
I have an outstanding limited series. Chernobyl. Won like everything for us.
That does interest me with as many wins as it has that I kind of want to watch that show now.
Yeah, I've not seen it yet either.
I've heard nothing but phenomenal reviews about it. Yeah, so I really want to.
I'm surprised though it beats Sharp Objects because Sharp Objects now maybe the second season was down compared to the first season, but I've heard a lot of things about Sharp Objects, and that. Sorry, not Sharp Objects. I'm not surprised that didn't win. Sorry, I did see most of that. That was not good.
What are you mixing it up with?
Rewind.
What's the one with Reese Witherspoon?
Big Little Lies?
Big Little Lies, sorry.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry. Sharp Objects was not a fan of. In fact, I'm not an... Is it Amy Smart? Is that the actress?
That is an actress, yeah.
Is that
is that
Amy
who's in
Smart.
Amy Adams?
Amy Adams. Not a fan. For some reason, I just can't get behind Amy Adams. I'm just not... It's not my thing.
Really?
Yeah. Just not... I'm not saying she... I just don't care.
Okay.
I'm not sure. And then outstanding television movies. Because we talked about this a little bit last week. Bandersnatch wins from Netflix.
Yeah, I roasted that. Shame on me, I guess.
Yeah, you know what you're talking about.
I mean, yeah, it was kind of cool and inventive and whatever. I don't know. It didn't entice me enough to watch it a second time and choose different decisions.
I think that's another one, similar to how Game of Thrones won because of its almost lifetime achievement, like you said, Garrett. I think Bandersnatch, a big part of it, securing its win was how it tried to change the game for how we view entertainment and how we view a movie.
I agree.
So if it didn't have the choose your own path feature to it, I don't think it would have even been much considered.
Agreed.
So
okay. Yeah. Moving to performances. So outstanding lead actor in a comedy series. Bill Hader wins for Barry. There was an argument made, not by me or us, but by another podcast I listened to, that surprisingly, because Barry and Veep were on at the same exact time as Game of Thrones. Okay, so like you didn't hear about these shows because obviously everybody on the cooler is talking about Game of Thrones.
Yeah, well, exactly.
But you can make the argument that the season of Barry that just took place was better than the season of Game of Thrones by Game of Thrones standards, and he wins for best actor in a comedy series. He beats out Anthony Anderson from Blackish. He beats out Don Cheadle for Black Monday. Ted Danson for The Good Place, Michael Douglas for The Kaminsky Method, which is on Netflix, I believe, and Eugene Levy for Schitt's Creek. I'll tell you, I'm okay with this. No arguments. I think that he wins. I have not seen The Kaminsky Method. I've not seen Schitt's Creek or Black Monday. I just think that Bill Hader did such a phenomenal job. I can't imagine him not winning that. It doesn't seem like it's a strong field, is what I'm trying to say.
Gotcha.
So
I agree, but I also agree with you to the standpoint that I think he's probably the best choice. Like,
yeah, it's a great. I mean, it's
a
surprisingly
weird
good
comment
show
to make without any background information. You know what I mean?
It's a show that catches on. If you haven't seen Barry, it's a story of a guy who's a hitman who wants to basically go to Hollywood and become an actor. The first couple episodes are okay, but man, if you can hold off, it's a little slower show to start off. But if you can hold off and get to like episode 5, 6, 7 of the first season, it really picks up, and it actually turns out to be a really good show. So.
I agree that it's got to be a pretty weak category based on the nominees that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I can't comment. I haven't seen all the shows on there, but there's some heavy hitters in terms of actors that are in that category. So I'm not going to say that it was necessarily an easy win for him there, but from everything I've heard about Barry, based on what you've told me, Garrett, and actually, funny you mentioned around the time Game of Thrones because at work, some of our other coworkers would be talking about Barry and not Game of Thrones. Like, oh, Game of Thrones last night, whatever. Oh, but Barry's on, and it's awesome. Yeah. And so, like, I was hearing about it even while Game of Thrones Season 8 was running. I was like, okay, maybe I should check out this this Barry show.
And I'll tell you, I was kind of shocked at how good Barry was because I was skeptical of Bill Hader and how he would do in a semi-serious performance. Mm-hmm. It's a drama and a comedy, so it's like a dramedy because
but especially being like an SNL
alum, right? It's very
alum,
and it's it doesn't do violence a lot, but when it does the violence, it's very well done. It's very brutal, it's very quick, kind of like that Taylor Sheridan style. Like it's just there.
Yeah.
And it's like I said, he's a hitman. It kind of reminds me. There's that John Cusack movie, Grosse Point Blank, where he's kind of a hitman going through a midlife crisis, goes back to his high school reunion. Kind of like that. Stars Dan Aykroyd as well, which remind me for recommendations. Dan Aykroyd.
That's right.
Because amazing Dan Aykroyd recommendation by the end of this podcast.
Are you talking JRE?
I'm talking about Joe Rogan Experience, baby. Did you listen to it?
Not all of it.
Oh
no.
my god! Did you listen to part of it?
Parts of it,
it's
yes.
It's phenomenal. It's like one of the best podcast episodes I've ever listened to.
Mind blown.
It's so great. Anyways, remind me. I'll come back to that.
It's a childhood hero right there.
Recommendation. Well, and I thought it was great because you've seen him. You've actually didn't you meet him?
Yeah, I saw him.
Sorry, tangent.
Really?
Tangent.
No, this is a tangent that needs
I saw him in person at a Frank Lloyd Wright home in Arizona when I was on vacation one time.
That's right.
Yeah, I was just young, and my mom goes, "Oh, go get a picture with Dan Aykroyd." I loved Ghostbusters. Loved Ghostbusters back in the day, and I was too nervous. I couldn't do it.
No, that's okay. He probably would have asked you if you've been abducted based on that last podcast. It was fantastic.
He's probably like, "Where's the landing strip over here?"
Seriously. Anyways, I'll come back to that at the end. So let's go to Outstanding Actress in a Comedy Series. So Phoebe Waller-Bridge wins this. And she beats out Christina Applegate.
Is that a hyphen on the last name?
Yep.
Okay.
She beats out Christina Applegate, Dead to Meet, Rachel Brosnahan, Marvelous Miss Maisel, Julie Louis-Dreyfus for Veep, Natasha Lyonne for Russian Doll, and Catherine O'Hara for Schitt's Creek.
That's a strong field.
It's a very strong field.
Very much so.
Kind of shocked that Julie Louis-Dreyfus doesn't take it. It's the final season of Veep. She had won 6 already, though. So it might be voter fatigue. Maybe,
yeah.
Critic fatigue, right? Because critics, you said?
Well, voter fatigue, right.
All right,
That's right.
Yeah.
Whoever's voting for these things.
Well, yeah. To be fair, though, to Phoebe Waller-Bridge, I think, once again, based on what I've heard about Fleabag, to have something of that caliber for such a short run with the talent that seems to be there across the board.
Right.
And she's obviously kind of helming that in a lot of different ways. Lead actress, it seems like. And did she write for Fleabag as well, correct?
Correct.
She wrote for that also. So, I mean, I can absolutely understand why she would win in that category when that's a very relatively new thing that she's just coming in being like, hey, look how awesome this is.
Yeah. And it looks like, to be, just kind of briefly looking at this, I've not seen Russian Doll. I don't know anything about it. Never even heard of it. To be fair, I don't really watch a ton of Netflix stuff.
I was going to say, I think that's a Netflix one.
But it seems to be nominated for a lot of things. So if those listeners out there that have not heard of Russian Doll, which a lot of you might not have, that probably do have a Netflix subscription, maybe check it out.
I was going to see where you're going at.
I do have a Russian subscription.
Is the main actress is the one from American Pie, right?
Who? For which episode?
And she's also in Orange is the New Black.
Oh, I know who you're talking about. Redhead, right?
Right.
Yeah, maybe. I've never seen it.
I think it is. It is.
Christina Applegate, personally love her. She's Kelly Bundy from Married with Children. Julie Louis-Dreyfus, like I said. Catherine O'Hara. Did you ever see Beetlejuice?
Yeah.
Or the mom from Home Alone?
Yeah.
That's her. I feel like the actress list of nominees is definitely stronger than the male nominees. Do we agree? It's definitely a harder group.
Absolutely.
It's a more impressive win than Bill Hader taking the win.
Yeah,
I agree.
That, I would agree with.
Okay.
Yep.
Hunter P.
All right.
I'm in the now. I'm woke.
Well, here,
I'm woke.
Let's keep talking Phoebe Waller-Bridge real quick. So we'll go off on her tangent that I wanted to go on to. So I was looking her up today because she signed an exclusive deal with Amazon to keep producing for them.
Yeah.
So I looked more into her. Not only does she create, write, and star in Fleabag, she executive produces Killing Eve. And under Daniel Craig's recommendation, or basically urging, she got brought in to rewrite the script for Bond 25.
Nice.
So I'm trying to think of outside of... I can't think of anybody off the top of my head who has done this much stuff and is this successful. And
This quickly?
this quickly
as well, yeah.
Like, what a power player. She's starring in, she's producing other shows that she's not even a part of that are extremely successful.
That people are requesting her presence.
I mean, there's a couple people that come to mind. So one is Stars Born Bradley Cooper, right? Directs and stars and sings in this movie. It bothers me to no end that Bradley Cooper didn't win awards for that show.
He's so dang popular and talented.
I saw that movie. It's a movie that I will only ever watch once because it's that good. I'll never watch it again.
Would you recommend it to me?
Yes, you'll cry though.
Okay, without my wife in the room.
Yeah, you can watch it by yourself. The only other person I can think of that I think about at the time starting in their own show, producing a second show, and doing other things is like, my wife would be very proud of me for saying this, but Whitney Cummings, she starred in her own show called Whitney, which was surprisingly really funny. It only lasted 2 seasons. Better than a lot of stuff that was on TV. I don't know why it only lasted 2 seasons.
It's weird those shows die.
You're right. She created, I think, or wrote for Two Broke Girls, which was very popular.
Oh,
and she was doing stand-up comedy at the time. Like, there was just kind of this, like, again, just kind of had her hands in different pies all over the place and was very successful. And
I don't think that's the term, but I get what you're putting down.
It's not the term? Hands in different pies?
Hands in different
I
pies?
think that is the term.
That is the term.
Hands in pies?
Get your head out of the pie.
Maybe I'm not in it now.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm
just
not. Maybe I'm not as woke as I thought I was.
You're broke. So, can you guys...
I'm gonna put my.
Don't put your hand in any pies, Nate. Do you think Phoebe Waller-Bridge right now is the most impressive actor/actress that you can think of? Or is there anybody else that comes to mind that's got that much clout right now?
No. No one else. Unfortunately, I have not seen much of what she has helped produce, start in across the board. Although she is in Star Wars.
Yes.
Yeah, Solo, more specifically.
Yes.
So for people out here who maybe think they haven't seen Phoebe Waller-Bridge in anything, if you've seen Solo, a Star Wars story, she's the droid, L337.
Yep.
That is with Lando.
Yep.
That is voiced by Phoebe Waller-Bridge.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
But outside of that, sadly, I have not seen really any of the projects that she's been attached to, but hearing everything about her, I can... Yes.
I mean, talk about people who can write their own tickets. I mean, I know I personally, and I believe you guys are too, this podcast in general is a big fan of Taylor Sheridan.
Yeah.
And we push his work whenever we can, which his new movie that's going to come out is going to be fantastic as well. The cast is amazing. It reminds me of like the Duffy Brothers. It reminds me of Benny Hoff and Weiss. It just reminds me of these people who are writing their own ticket, like Ryan Coogler, right? He did Creed 2, he did Black Panther. He can do whatever he wants. Mm-hmm. You know, these types of people that they have 100% autonomy for their next project. Creative. And you can trust them to be successful about it.
Yeah.
She is, just like Taylor Sheridan, in my opinion, bats 1,000. She's batting 1,000 on arguably more impressive stats. She is not just directing and writing and starring, but she's doing multiple shows.
Yeah.
And, you know, and then she's arguably hemming the final film franchise of the most successful James Bond and the best James Bond, which is arguably the longest, isn't the longest running movie franchise is James Bond?
Oh, I have to imagine, yes.
Right.
I can't think of anything else.
And she's currently hemming the final piece of the final movie of the best James Bond to have held that mantle.
Agreed.
At his request. That is extremely impressive. So basically what I'm trying to say is my plan is to continue to finish Fleabag out and to watch Killing Eve because I'm interested in her work. Yeah. Although I know that the work for Killing Eve, although very successful, is not really she's writing it, but very successful. I'm willing to give this lady the necessary due that she deserves and that everybody should. And so if you have not heard of Fleabag, which a lot of people haven't, go out to Amazon. It's an Amazon show. If you own Prime, if you have Prime, you can watch the show for free. So you're already paying for it.
Yeah,
so you might as well enjoy it. So that's my Phoebe Waller-Bridge kind of tangent. Which, you know what's surprising though about Fleabag, it is only watched by, I think they said the average viewership is 1 million viewers. Compared to Game of Thrones.
Very much
it's incredibly low.
Compared to Game of Thrones was 13 million for its finale.
13 million.
Mm-hmm. So think about
Missing some zeros.
Right. But pin that because we'll come back to that towards the end here. Outstanding lead actor in drama, Billy Porter for Pose. I'm assuming it's Pose. I apologize if I'm pronouncing this wrong.
Yeah.
I've not seen this show on FX.
I don't really even know anything about it, to be quite honest with you. So.
I don't know anything about Billy Porter. So
yeah.
we're just going to say who he beats out.
Sure.
He beats out Jason Bateman, Ozark, Sterling Brown for This Is Us, Kit Harington, Game of Thrones, Bob Odenkirk, Better Call Saul, and Milo as a Ventimiglia for This Is Us.
Sure.
I don't know how you say his last
I feel like that's a super strong category as well.
Yeah.
That's huge to win that
surprisingly,
category.
Sterling Brown is a guy I don't think it's enough push.
Who is Sterling Brown?
He's in...
Educate me.
This Is Us. Let me pull some stuff up here because I don't know his full history here. He was in People vs. O.J. Simpson. Like I said, he stars in This Is Us. Other things he's done for filmography. He's in Black Panther. He's in The Predator. He's in Frozen 2. He's been in tons of different TV shows. But I can't really, without showing you a picture of him, I just feel like he's a guy that's, I think This Is Us is going to give him a bigger career going forward. So
he's very talented. I have seen some other things with him in it, and I think he's a very talented actor. So, yeah, I agree. I think that's a tough category, and the fact that the one person out of those actors that I do not recognize won that category, this is where I see value in something like the Emmys, where maybe I did not before, which is it's these shows that now I'm like, okay, seeing who they did manage to beat out, maybe I need to check this show out, see what all the hype is actually about. So,
how about this? How about Kit Harington as lead actor?
On a show like Game of Thrones, I mean, throw a dart at a dartboard for who's your lead actor. Yeah, I feel like also, season 8 especially, try to rein in my tangent, season 8 especially, you can't tell me that he's the main character for how
who is Joe?
Pan out.
Dude didn't even fight the Night King.
Yeah. I mean, there's just
Who
so
is
many...
Joe?
What's that?
Can you name a main character, or do you have to do like a...
It's an ensemble.
Ensemble. Ensemble is a great word for it.
Yeah.
They're all supporting actors and
Exactly.
actresses.
I would,
All right.
if anybody, I would put all of the... If you had to pick one as the lead, it should be Peter Dinklage as the lead.
I agree with you because he's been the biggest character from the first episode.
Yeah.
He was because think
He
about it.
ties everything in every one.
Well, but not just that. But in the first season, Peter Dinklage is probably the second main character behind Sean Bean. Is it Sean Bean? That's his name.
Yeah.
Yep.
From the first season, yeah.
Kit Harington's not a main character in season 1.
Let's just
They do a great job of just pushing him to the side.
Yeah.
Tyrion's always there. Different seasons put focus on different people as characters start to die, but Tyrion is always there.
How about this? The fact that he doesn't kill the Night King, he doesn't win. Like, if he won this and didn't kill the Night King, I'd burn this place down. Just that alone. Sorry. I don't know. I don't like it. Outstanding actress, Jodie Comer for Oksana Astakanova for Killing Eve. She is the serial killer in Killing Eve.
Gotcha.
I'm not really sure until you spell that for me. Can you...
Oksana Astakanova. Way better that time. She beats out
The pronunciation
Robin
is
Wright
awesome.
for House of Cards. This is a strong category. She beats out Robin Wright, House of Cards, Sandra Oh for Killing Eve,
Okay.
Mandy Moore for This Is Us, Laura Linney for Ozark, Viola Davis for How to Get Away with Murder, and Emilia Clarke for Daenerys.
Yep.
Okay.
That is
That's
huge
a strong category.
So this is interesting.
Stacked.
This is great. We've had both categories, and by far the women's category is way more stacked than the men's category.
Go
Absolutely.
to shows that are, should I say, less popular than... I mean, they go to shows that are less popular?
Well, look, okay, how about this, though? So, Killing Eve, very successful. It's I believe, a British show as well. It's not an American... I don't believe it's an American show.
I know Sandra Oh's in it.
Emilia Clarke, though,
I could get into that.
hasn't won. Never won an Emmy for her performance as Daenerys. Are you guys okay with that? I'm okay with it.
I'm fine.
I don't find that her
I
performance was fantastic.
don't even think twice.
I don't either.
No, I'm on the fence about that one. I'm surprised she hasn't won an Emmy at any point throughout the show's run.
Can you think
Yeah.
of a particular season that you thought she should have won it?
Probably in the earlier seasons.
Season 2?
No, I just shooting out
Season
numbers.
2?
I did a peace sign.
Oh, peace.
Oh,
I thought
just kidding. I don't
maybe the season where I would think maybe season 2 is correct. Isn't that the season where she starts liberating everybody? And she starts going from like city to city collecting armies.
Yeah.
That
Because
would
it's
probably
a-
be...
That's where her brother gets the throne, quote
That's the-
unquote.
that's the first season
yeah.
that he gets
He
the
dies
throne.
in the. Yeah, it's at the. I think it is season 2. I'd have to go back and rewatch.
Yes.
But after Khal Drogo dies,
Don't go back and rewatch.
Okay, well, fair enough. Yeah, who am I kidding? There's no way. There's too much content. I'm not going to rewatch Game of Thrones. Anyway.
Aquaman is a-
But after
the-
Khal Drogo dies and she really starts to lead the Dothraki, like that those
Yes.
seasons,
Yep.
as that plot line starts to unfold. I'm surprised that she did not win.
Agreed.
Yeah. No, I absolutely agree with you on that. I just thought that was kind of an interesting thing. Again, Killing Eve, might need to check that out. Supporting performances. Actor, is it Shalhoub from Monk? Or not? He's not from Monk, but he's the star of Monk. How do you say his last name? Shalhoub?
Oh gosh.
Anyways, Tony Shalhoub for Marvelous Miss Maisel. In fact, Marvelous Miss Maisel wins both supporting actor and actress in the comedy series.
Supporting.
Yes.
Is that her parents?
I think it's her father, and then I think the Alex Borstein who wins the actress is the lady who gets her into the stand-up comedy.
Okay. All right.
Who I think Alex Borstein actually won back-to-back. I think she won last year as well. Surprising though, so he beats out Tony. Tony beats out Alan Arkin for the Kaminsky Method. Anthony Kerrigan for Barry as NoHo Hank. That's a tough one. Anthony Kerrigan as NoHo Hank and Barry is phenomenal. There's not much.
You really like his character.
He's so great. He is excellent. Tony Hale from Veep, better performance. You can make the arguments that Tony Hale's performance as Gary Walsh in Veep is better than Buster Bluth in Arrested Development.
Okay.
Stephen Root for Barry. That's Monroe Fuchs. That's his handler, and Henry Winkler for Barry as well. You're talking
Henry Winkler,
which is great. I don't know. It's hard to say. Bill Hader wins for lead actor. The other three people, though, I'm kind of shocked they didn't win because NoHo Hank is excellent.
Henry Winkler.
He's really good too. So good.
Golf clap.
So good. So I don't know. I'm very shocked that I like Tony Hale a lot though. Veep was really good. That was a good last season for him as well. Again, if you like Buster Bluth, you need to watch Veep. It's great.
Nice.
So Alex Borstein, Miss Maisel beats out Anna Chomsky from Veep.
She sounds attractive.
That's. Jeez. You ever see My Girl?
Oh,
With Macaulay Culkin?
I know she is attractive, but that name, does not do her justice.
Cian Clifford from Fleabag, Olivia Colman from Fleabag, Betty Gilpin from Glow, Sarah Goldberg from Barry, Maureen Hinkle from Marvelous Miss Maisel, and Kate McKinnon, Saturday Night Live. I can't speak to much of it. I'm not a big fan of Sarah Goldberg and Barry.
Okay.
I do say she was way better in second season than she was in first season.
Who does she play? What's her character?
Sally Reed. She's the love interest.
Okay.
So she's the actress that he's trying to date or is dating essentially.
Okay.
She's okay. I don't think she beats out. I can't say I've only seen Veep as the other one, but Anna Chomsky's great. So, like I said, I'm a big fan of Veep. I've been on the record to say that Veep could very well be the best comedy since the year 2000. So, yeah. And then outstanding actor, drama series, Peter Dinklage.
There you go.
Peter Dinklage. I never got my chance to do an intro with
never did.
my Game of Thrones theme.
Do it right now.
Well, I got voted 2-1
That's how it usually works.
by the triangle of
by the
tyranny.
Way, any listeners out there, you guys are extremely lucky that Joe and I outvote Nate a lot. We have no idea where the direction of the show would go if Nate were to win votes.
I had some very good ideas.
We don't do the electoral college. We do the popular vote. That's right.
These guys are a big fan of the popular vote.
So
it ruins me.
Let's talk Peter Dinklage, Joe. Peter Dinklage beats out Alfie Allen from Game of Thrones, Jonathan Banks from Better Call Saul, Nicholas Coster-Waldau from Jaime Lannister, Giancarlo Esposito as Gus Fring,
Okay.
Michael Kelly from House of Cards, he's Doug Stamper, and Chris Sullivan as Toby Damon on This Is Us. This is a big category. This is a very strong cast of people.
Your pronunciation of those characters is great.
Well, I've seen a lot of them.
I'd
I've seen
butcher
them.
those.
If I've seen them, I can probably tell you what they are. If I have not seen them,
I'd butcher those like crazy.
Well, let's talk Peter Dinklage. I don't believe he was the best actor on this season.
Really? Who would you pick? Regardless of if they were nominated, who would you have picked?
I would have gone with Jaime Lannister.
Okay.
That's my opinion.
Well, yeah, fair enough. I still would give it to Peter Dinklage.
Okay.
I would. I think that he does a lot of the carrying for season 8.
Yeah. I will tell you this. I have not seen this season of Better Call Saul. I'm one season behind. But I love me some Giancarlo Esposito. And I will tell you right now that if I were to probably watch that, I would tell you he deserves it. Because his character of Gus Fring is one of the best characters on television.
Nice.
So, phenomenal. The original Breaking Bad series with him as he comes in as like kind of this drug cartel guy. Excellent.
Nice.
So,
well, I think he seems like a very talented actor, so I'm excited to see him because he is in The Mandalorian.
He is in The Mandalorian.
As well, and it looks like he's some kind of Death Trooper officer or something.
I think he'll be like a stand-in for like Hux.
Cool. Yeah, I agree,
or,
but he's going to do just so much better in that type of role than
or who's the guy?
Recently.
Who was? Is it Ben Mendelsohn? Who is it from?
Mendelsohn?
Mendelsohn.
Yeah. It's Krennic.
Krennic.
Ben Mendelsohn is phenomenal.
He's great.
Yeah,
he's an awesome actor. He was really great in Batman. Batman. What was the third Batman? With Bane.
Yeah.
Batman Begins. Dark Knight
Rises.
Dark Knight Rises. He was great in that. Yeah. He's just a really good actor.
He is. Very good actor.
So do you believe that? Do you believe Peter Dinklage, out of the entire cast of Game of Thrones, deserves to be the? We argued that he would be the lead actor.
Yeah.
Do you? Okay, but you believe this season he deserves this award over the other two? Let's just talk those two. Between Alfie Allen as Theon Greyjoy and Jaime Lannister Nikolai Coster-Waldau as Jaime Lannister.
Yes.
You believe that Peter Dinklage deserves that?
Yes.
What do you think, Nate?
I agree.
Okay.
Did you see his? And this is a side note, but did you see him in Shot Caller? Super interesting movie. Yeah, this is a side note.
Not Peter Dinklage, right? You're talking about Nikolai Coster-Waldau.
Yeah.
This is why you get outvoted.
Okay, gotcha.
Yeah. Am I jumping ship?
Listen, Designated Survivor.
Yeah, no. Go check it out. It's a super interesting movie.
I actually have heard it's a good movie.
It is good.
Let's go last one for these Emmys. Sure. And we can get off the Emmys for a little bit, guys. So if you're still with us, great. Thank you. We enjoy you guys listening to this.
Because no one likes the Emmys.
Julia Garner wins for Ozark as outstanding actress in the drama series, supporting actress. Beats out Gwendolyn Christie as Brianna Tarth, Game of Thrones.
So on a side note,
she nominated herself.
Oh, she did.
Yeah.
Yep.
Side note, she didn't. They didn't nominate her. She nominated herself.
Good for her.
Lena Headey, Cersei. Fiona Shaw, Killing Eve. Sophie Turner as Sansa, and Macy Williams as Arya Stark. Do you believe any of the females?
Half the categories were Game of Thrones.
Correct. Well, the thing about Game of Thrones, though, is the show is a ton of... By the end, from the start of Game of Thrones to the end of Game of Thrones, way more strong female leads by the end of Game of Thrones than there are by the start of it.
Agreed.
We killed off a lot of men to get to where
I will say this. I saw, when I was looking this up, I saw like a widespread view of like all the actors on stage with one another. And Gwendolyn, it towered over everybody. So I had to look up how tall she was.
Yeah.
She's as tall as I am. She's 6'3".
You're tall.
I'm a big dude.
That's why in Star Wars, it's Captain Phasma. Like, underutilized in Star Wars, which is a pity.
Thanks, Ryan Johnson.
Yeah, right. But like she looks really intimidating, standing there like platinum stormtrooper armor, you know?
That is exactly what I was going to say. She is an intimidating figure. And you forget like how small, for whatever reason,
Peter
actors...
I wasn't
going to say Peter. No, but like actors just in general, like how you have this preconceived notion about how big they are. And then like you view them against like, I don't know, average size individuals.
Can we be honest? She's huge in the show. She's extremely tall in the show. She's the size of the Hound.
Yeah, exactly. Like,
yeah,
that's why I did find that interesting in that last season where you see so many of these characters that haven't interacted before finally interact. So,
how about this? Let me ask you a question. If you were to give a acting award for Game of Thrones entire series between Macy Williams as Arya Stark and Sophie Turner as Sansa Stark, who do you give it to? Who's the better actor? Who's the better performance?
Ooh, Sophie Turner.
I agree.
Who are my two choices?
Arya and Sophie. So Arya and Sansa. Sophie Turner as Sansa Stark and Maisie Williams as Arya Stark. Who's the better performance throughout the show?
Sansa.
I agree.
I think so.
Honestly, I don't think it's close. I know everybody loves Arya Stark, and I'm not that person. I'm on the record as saying I'm not a huge Arya Stark fan. I love me some Sansa Stark. Her performance is great.
It is.
I mean, her trials and tribulations she goes to dwarfs anything that, or basically, yeah. Macy Williams isn't her character besides getting stabbed by a whatever in the House of the Dead or whatever it is, or the no-faced guy. That's it. That's all.
Right. I think the character development from 1 to 8.
That's what I meant.
Is much stronger for Sansa than it is really a lot of characters.
She should have sat.
She has much more a degree of like 180ing than Macy.
Maisie Williams.
You can make the argument her biggest character turn was when she had sex with Gendry, right? Sophie Turner deserved to sit on the throne at the end, and my lady got her own kingdom anyway. So what up? You know what I mean? What up?
Yeah, she's just like, yeah, I don't want to concede.
I'm not bending my knee.
I know I'm one of the 7, but yeah, I just wanted. Why don't you just take one of the 6?
Yeah. I'll tell you this: for next year's, assuming anybody watches the Emmys next year, Succession's going to take a bunch of stuff. I'm telling you right now, we will, if we're still around next year for this podcast.
Or are you a part of the cast?
No, but I'm telling you right now, Succession's going to
You're saying weird. Like, it's one of those people who like equates themselves to be a part of the a team.
Yeah, I'm part of the fan. I'm part of the Roy's clique. Succession's going to take a ton.
We're just gonna kill it.
Yeah, based on just what you've told me about it,
it's great.
I can very much see that winning.
Very shocked that the show Billions is not up here. Very interesting.
In any category, right?
It's not.
Are they even nominated?
I don't believe so.
Wow, they didn't even make nominations.
No. Before we get off the Emmys altogether, I kind of brought up some interesting things for the Emmys. So I went back 20 years. So I went to the 51st Primetime Emmys and the 61st. So I went from 99 to 2009 to 2019. And I kind of wanted to have the conversation about a couple things here. What's really fascinating is this. So if I go back to the 51st Primetime Emmys, the networks that are nominated are only NBC, HBO, CBS, ABC, and Fox.
5?
Yep. Mm-hmm. Now, the 51st, this is not, HBO is not necessarily new because they've been around for a couple of years. This was the first year Sopranos got in. Okay? They had 11 nominations. They didn't really win anything until their second year as far as winning the most. So you still got The Practice, and NYPD Blue is winning everything. Okay? Here's what's interesting. If you start tracking this, let's go to the 61st. 61st Emmys. Now you've got still HBO, NBC, CBS, ABC, AMC now joins in. Okay? It's kind of like, just to kind of give you an idea of what shows won at that time. You had 30 Rock as comedy, Mad Men as outstanding drama, right? As far as actors, you had Alec Baldwin from 30 Rock, Toni Collette from United States of Terra, Bryan Cranston as Walter White, Glenn Close as Patty Hughes, stuff like that, okay? So that's kind of who won. If you go to the 71st, which we had this year, primetime, here are the networks. HBO, Netflix, Prime Video, NBC, Showtime, FX, BBC America, CBS, Hulu, AMC, ABC, Comedy Central, IFC, Pop TV, and TBS.
16?
Boom! You're talking
count 16?
A ton of different stuff. And it kind of leads to the conversation we had. Fleabag, which won the most awards at 4, had an average viewership of about 1 million viewers. It kind of tells you where things are going to go.
Teeny potatoes, yeah.
You're talking like, I'm afraid it's going to get to that point where, again, we haven't seen half the television shows. And I watch a lot of TV, and I haven't seen half of these shows because you just can't.
Yeah, it's impossible to see it all. There's no way.
It's impossible if you're not going to go back in time. If you were to say, going forward today, well, you can't watch everything, but you could get a good grasp on watching shows as they air because it's 1 hour this, 1 hour that, stuff like that, right? It's impossible, though, if you're going to go back in time and say, well, I've never seen Game of Thrones, so I'm going to start Game of Thrones now while I'm trying to, catch up on everything else. That is such a fascinating thing, though, how many networks have popped up here.
Yeah.
Super interesting. And it's going to be even more interesting as we add Disney Plus, we add the Peacock, we add... what else do we add? We're adding the HBO Max, stuff like that. Like, it's going to be a lot of these shows. You're going to see a lot of different things.
And I think what also is interesting about that is that the quality content across multiple platforms is huge compared to what it would have been when you had 5 networks with nominees. and those were the networks you could count on for quote unquote quality television, or at least that was the popular perception of it. There were,
Correct.
I'm sure, other good shows out there that didn't make the cut on different networks, right? But now you're at a point where people are wising up to the fact that, hey, there are these awesome shows on a variety of different streaming networks that they can go to, and we're going to start to see that being recognized more and more. Yeah. So,
like I said, the show Yellowstone, I'm surprised Yellowstone's not nominated, but most people haven't seen Yellowstone, and I would think that it could very well be successfully nominated at least this next year for a couple Emmys here. And again, it's only going to get more diluted, and we're going to get more networks in there. But also, you don't have everybody watching 3 networks, right? The ABCs, NBCs, CBSs. You have everybody watching multiple networks now, right? There's people that are cutting the cable. There's people that are cutting the cord. They might not even have access to ABC, NBC, CBS anymore.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Well, and I think, too, just like we've talked about many times before, how long it might take for that category, though, to shrink. And I don't think that will happen for a while, but I think eventually it will as consolidation starts to happen.
Yes.
So we're talking years down the road for that, but it's going to, right now we're expanding. There's all these streaming services with all this quality content, and then there's going to reach a point where consumers can only consume so much. You get the consolidation that happens, and then you start to see fewer streaming services as they start to fall under umbrellas.
Right.
So
Conglomerates.
yes, conglomerates.
How about a little bit of before I get to let's talk. Do you guys want to do a couple trivia things about who owns records, or do you want to get to the kind of most interesting snubs? What do you prefer?
Let's do snubs.
Okay, so some of the snubs I looked at as things that were kind of shocking about not winning awards. First off, Amy Poehler never won for Parks and Rec.
Yeah.
Steve Carell never won for The Office.
Really?
And
That's more surprising.
That is the most surprising thing, and that's the one that does not age well. If you were to tell people in 10 years that that Steve Carell never won an Emmy, people would not believe that.
I agree.
That is extremely shocking that he did not win. Angela Lansbury for Murder, She Wrote. Nominated 17 times, never won.
Her wife would be
She
pissed.
won like Tony Awards, I believe she has an Academy Award. Never won an Emmy for Murder, She Wrote.
For what, 20 plus years?
Yeah. The Wire was nominated a couple different times for mostly writing purposes, like writing episodes, because you can get like Best Writer for a single episode, director, which we didn't get into tonight. Was nominated twice. Other than that, no acting wins and no actually overall series drama wins, which I don't think ages well today either.
Oh, wow.
Considering a lot of people will list that as the number one drama all time, yet it never won Best Drama.
Does it, and I've never watched it, but does it hurt it that it's like more of an anthology?
Oh, it's not an anthology. It's not an anthology. It's everything.
It's like a lot of different aspects of a singular.
But the stories are continuations. Like the characters are
Yeah.
continuations. And so a lot of the stories will interact between seasons 1 through 5. What hurts it was one of HBO's first shows. And to be fair, at the time in 2000, 2001, it's a predominantly black cast. That's probably going to hurt it. If The Wire came on today, it would win Best Drama. Like if the exact same show had never aired and aired today, it would win probably a couple different awards.
Okay.
Hugh Laurie never won for House.
Okay.
Hugely popular.
Right.
Yeah.
And just kind of...
That's very strong performance, for
just
sure.
Like iconic actors that have been in, iconic performances, correct.
Yeah.
Just interesting things. Now, to records. CBS holds the most wins for a network in a single year at 44 wins in 1974. How about this? Most wins in a single year. What show do you think has the most wins in a single year?
Big Bang Theory.
Not even close.
Which show has most wins?
MASH.
Yep. Most wins for a series in a single year.
Battlestar Galactica. I'll keep going.
I believe
you will.
I'm going to go with something maybe more recent. Is it something like Game of Thrones?
It is Game of Thrones.
Okay.
Like 12, and that was actually like 2-3 years ago.
That was a lame guess.
How about most wins for a comedy series? This is shocking.
Most wins for a comedy series.
Seinfeld.
Nope.
Or Frasier.
It's Frasier.
Yeah!
Oh, nice. Oh, that makes me... Okay,
Heyo.
I'm happy about that. I love Frasier.
Most wins for dramas, Game of Thrones, 147.
Frasier. I've always thought, well, granted, given my growing up and when Frasier was on air, I thought it was the dumbest show I've ever heard of because I didn't understand
It's an
the concept.
extremely successful spinoff. When you talk about
I'm
spinoffs
gonna
from
get
the
it,
original, Yeah, from Cheers?
Yeah, spinoffs struggle to survive most of the time, and Frasier became its whole own thing.
How about most wins for a single episode of television? So that would be like acting,
What are wins?
writing, directing. So like if
Oh,
so
okay,
when
okay.
actors
I follow
or
you.
actresses win, they win based on a submission of one episode.
Sopranos.
Nope.
Yeah, Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones is tied, so it's a tie.
Really?
Battle of the Bastards is 6. The next one is really interesting. I would not have thought of this. It's Boardwalk Empire, which is a pretty good show.
HBO
For
as
the
well.
extremely first show. The first episode was directed by Martin Scorsese.
Weird.
It's
Nice.
really
He's
good.
not that successful anyway.
Never heard of him.
I don't even know how to spell his name.
Let's see here. Most wins for acting in a drama series is a tie. It's a 3-way tie. Breaking Bad, Sopranos, and West Wing. Let me see what else we got here.
For what? What was the category?
That was most wins for acting in a drama series.
To its completion in a season.
Well, just like most wins for acting.
Okay, all right.
Most wins for a show for drama series, it's a tie. Hill Street Blues, LA Law, West Wing, and Mad Men, all at 4. Comedy series, it's a tie. Frasier and Modern Family at 5. Simpsons for most outstanding animated program.
That makes sense.
Most wins for a comedy series in its final season, Frasier at 6. Let's see here. See if there's anything else here. Most wins for writer-producer, Jon Stewart.
Oh, okay.
And most wins for a
Also makes sense. I
performer
can
in
see that.
general, it's a tie between Cloris Leachman and Julia Louis-Dreyfus. So, just kind of interesting things.
Yeah.
But anyways, we put the Emmys to bed. What we'll do is we will take a quick break, and we'll come back out to finish this with just a couple other things we want to talk
A
about.
couple random things.
So we'll see you guys on the other side of the break. All right, welcome back in, guys. Sorry, we got back from break.
man.
We covered the Emmys.
We're having too much fun.
Nate might be a little too drunk to continue, so we'll see what comes out of his mouth and whether we can claim it or not.
That's
So-
one man's opinion.
So we'll see how to do. He's quite a few beers deep. So Joe, take it away, sir.
Yeah, so a couple episodes ago, before I was on my hiatus, if you will, we had discussed how, Garrett, you see, well, I won't say fairly routinely, you've seen a couple times some lights in the sky above your house.
You aliens.
Seen some lights in the sky above your house.
You mean how we discussed the aliens
Maybe-
are real?
Yeah, how you guys believe that aliens are real. Correct. I do have to say, now I was driving at the time, so whilst trying to be a responsible driver, could not really analyze this very closely. But the lights that you described, Garrett, during that episode definitely resembled the lights that I saw as well. They were very high up in the sky. It was a bright white light, and it was just stationary. And it was very hard to explain. Now, given my trajectory, if you will, while I was driving home, I don't know if there was actual movement that I was just not able to perceive. But given, or taken at face value, I should say, based on your description, it did seem to match that, which I found very interesting.
So listen, this is the Aliens and Cowboys podcast is based out of a small town in Iowa called Grimes.
Yeah.
There's a lot of alien activity in this town.
It is a hot zone.
I'm gonna put you. It's cornfields. Like there are cornfields here, so like I'm sure that there's definitely what are they? The
Crop circles.
Crop circles.
Yeah.
Yep. I told Joe, I'm like, because he didn't believe me that there are aliens. So anytime he goes outside with his dogs, to just look into the sky and just look at night. And first off, you'll just be amazed at how many stars you see, right?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
It's amazing. But you'll be amazed when you start to see things that are moving that aren't planes, and that you can't. You can definitely tell that when you can tell what a plane is because like I said, blinking lights on planes. You can tell what the plane is. There are some things that are moving that you cannot tell what those are.
Yeah, and now here's something else to consider, just as you mentioned, to where the Aliens and Cowboys podcast is based out of. There's also a National Guard headquarters within, 20 miles?
Yes.
So,
Yes. What do you drink some more?
for my argument,
I'm all out.
during that other episode, that a lot of what we don't fully comprehend is likely military technology of some kind.
Yeah.
It was over that location. Like literally, it was in the direction, and those lights were hovering. Air quotes. You can't see me.
Because they're communicating with them. They have a relationship with the government, of course.
Yeah, I love being on the other side of a conspiracy theory because usually I'm on your guys' side.
Yeah, how do you not believe?
Right now I'm like trying to rationalize like you guys are idiots.
How do you not believe aliens are real?
No, I'm
What?
trying to rationalize how this
Just
isn't
wait,
aliens.
you'll start to see more things that you can't explain, and maybe they're drones,
Yeah,
whatever they are. But the angles at which place I've seen, the lights that I've seen, and the movement I've seen are not over that military base because I know
Fair enough.
exactly where you're
Where's
at.
the acceleration at on your level?
So this
Is
okay,
it
so
possible?
This one that I recently saw where I'm like, it could be a drone, right? I told you it looked like a star.
Yeah.
This thing was moving at the speed that a plane would move across the sky, but it's a single solitary light that looked like it's far away from a star. Okay, there's no blinking lights on it. That seems awfully high for an airplane, in my opinion, because like I said, you can see airplanes at night. Like that's not ridiculous to say. That seems very high compared to a normal airplane's trajectory, especially because by the time an airplane gets to where we live, it's either landing or taking off. So it's either in its descent or it's going up. This thing was higher
Low
than that.
altitude. Yeah,
Correct.
sure.
So like I think that is a very logical explanation to say I have no idea what that is. That seems awfully high for it to have been a drone. Is the stance I will take.
right. And I wonder sometimes with stuff like that if it's a satellite or something that you're seeing crossover.
That's what they want you to think. Because we did see though that they had the second visitor, right, to our solar system.
Yes.
There is a comet that came through that they have said is not from our solar system. So this is the second time they've been able to track something that has entered our solar system from another solar system.
And that I can comprehend.
Well,
Like I don't, because we're not talking about something. Okay, well maybe we are. Clarify for me, because admittedly I've not read this story, but it's not like this was something seen in close proximity to us. You're talking about telescopes,
correct.
however far away.
Right.
It would. Okay. So that I can absolutely comprehend. We talked about that a bit in the other episode I keep referencing
Correct.
as well, where I absolutely believe there is
All
something else.
All I'm saying, Joe, is within about 3 or 4 episodes of this, 3 or 4 weeks, you've gone from I do not believe they exist to I've seen something I cannot explain now.
Correct. I still remain highly skeptical, and I was driving. I wish I had not been driving because obviously I would have otherwise analyzed it closer.
The ironic part is for me, every time I see this, I don't have my phone on.
Yeah, see, I didn't. There was no way for me to get
How
footage of
convenient.
this either.
Yeah.
Says
If
Nate
you
from the
walked out-
background.
If you walked out right side, Nate, you probably see aliens right now. You probably see
Wherever I walk, I hold the camera.
Yeah. No, I think that's great. That's a fantastic story, Joe.
And here I am, 2 versus 1.
I don't know
on
why
a,
you're yelling right now.
Alien conspiracy.
Okay, we will speed this up because Nate, I don't know.
Is
what's gonna happen.
unconvinced.
Okay, just a few quick hits before we get to recommendation corner, and
Yeah,
I don't know where
sounds
Nate's
good.
going to go with recommendation corner. A few things I saw. Jason Bateman is set to direct the Clue remake with Ryan Reynolds.
Okay.
They've talked about this on and off for quite some time.
Yeah, it's kinda-
Hollywood Reporter's reporting that.
Okay.
Pretty interesting. What we talked about? We said something about. Well, we talked about that already about Seinfeld. Friends. All those. $2 billion for these old sitcoms.
Yeah.
Sweet
Kind of interesting
royalties.
stuff.
Right.
I wanted to say I went and saw the new Rambo movie.
Oh, okay.
What'd you think?
It was a good action flick. It is not a good Rambo movie. It's a very similar premise, almost like identical premise to the movie Taken. So like I said, not a great Rambo. I don't think it's better than any of the other Rambos. Maybe Rambo 3, but it's not better than 1, 2, or 4.
Rainbow 3 sucked.
Yeah. Well, it doesn't suck. It's just not as good as the other ones.
I couldn't tell you what
This is
Rainbow 3 was even about.
yeah, he's in the desert. I know that. I think it's is it the Afghanistan? No, it's not the Afghanistan.
I don't know.
Could be the Afghanistan war with the Russians. I think that's what it is. I'd have to look it up. But anyways, the new Rambo. The more important part of the new Rambo was the movies that they showed for the previews all look very good.
Nice.
So 16 Bridges, Black and Blue.
Yeah, that
the
looks good.
sequel to The Shining. was on there.
Yes.
The preview, the sequel, the trailer for the sequel to the Shining movie is coming out. It stars Ewan McGregor, and he plays the son, and they go back to the hotel.
Ooh.
How'd you not know this movie was coming out? I thought you talked about it once.
No.
Yeah, you need to go out and find the sequel.
Yeah.
Kids on the tricycles, the 2 girls.
Jeez. It sounds right up my alley.
Yeah. Check it out. Yeah,
it's
Dr.
creepy as
Seuss
hell.
looks like it could be super.
You know, most people watch Elf
As it
during
turned
the
out.
holiday season. My family watches The Shining, which
It shows.
may allude to my personality.
It shows. That's all I've got for kind of just random crap. Anybody else have anything else before we get to recommendation corner?
Oh man, I'll put a pin in some of the stuff I wanted to go through just in the interest of time. Frozen 2 trailer. Frozen 2 trailer 2, dropped. Looks super cool. I'm excited for it. My daughter's gonna go nuts. She's really excited to see it too.
Are you more interested to see how much free time you get from having your daughter watch that, or how are you interested?
Are you taking and popping another beer?
Yeah.
That's safe.
No, I'm sorry. Let me back up a step. I'm excited for this movie.
Okay.
I like Frozen. I think it's a fun movie. My daughter loves Frozen. My wife loves Frozen. So Frozen 2.
I think it's cool too. I was just putting you on the spot.
No, fair enough. The trailer, you guys should check it out if you haven't seen the second trailer.
Never seen the first
specifically.
movie.
Oh, fair enough. Well, yeah. Give it a watch
I don't
sometime.
have kids.
I'm gonna drop my kid off at your house for a couple hours.
Watch Frozen.
Yeah, it's $20 an hour.
Gonna get charged a standard babysitting fee.
plus pizza.
But what really struck me about it, I guess to sum it up, is from that first trailer, it definitely looks like they're taking it in a more high adventure direction. And this trailer too confirms that. So it looks like kind of this fantasy epic as Elsa learns how to control her powers and discover more about what she's capable of. And from a CGI, like just pure generated effects perspective as well, it looks insane. Looks phenomenal.
Nice.
So I'm really excited for it. And that's something too. It's fun because we've talked about this before in previous episodes. Like hard to get out to see movies sometimes, just with family and everything like
But now
that.
the family wants to go. It's
Yeah,
easy.
so like this is something where the whole family can go.
your
to,
family
obviously.
your family would not like Rambo.
Yeah, I think we'll stay home from that one. At least we'll leave the kids in. At home.
You guys like popcorn?
What else you got, Joe?
Well, I guess one thing I wanted to put a pin in, but I won't. I'll talk about it briefly. Was just the recent news story that broke with Lucas's true feelings, quote unquote, about the newer trilogy.
Yep, read those.
Did you read about that? Yep.
Yeah.
So Bob Iger has a book, I think, memoir, if you will, I guess, that he's coming out with here, and a lot of people have been discussing an excerpt from that where it mentions how Bob Iger, along with Kathleen Kennedy, J.J. Abrams, I believe, was involved in the preliminary talks, and some of the other showrunners. Forgive me, I forget their names, but they had met prior to go meeting with George Lucas. This is after their purchase, after their acquisition. During that initial sale, George Lucas had kind of been under the impression that the outlines and rough script ideas that he had presented would be honored or at least followed to some extent. It seems like he thought that as part of the purchase agreement, even though it was not explicitly part of that purchase agreement, that his ideas would be utilized in some fashion.
You mean weird? You mean he was mad they pissed on his characters?
Right? Yeah. And then this is before The Force Awakens even came out, is the first part that Bob Iger refers to.
Right.
Is they had then met without Lucas first, already decided that, we're not going to use any of this. And then went to meet with Lucas at Skywalker Ranch, and throughout the duration of that meeting, he could tell that Lucas was kind of devastated by this. So I wanted to bring it up, and like I said, we're trying to wrap this up, so I don't want to make this a huge conversation, but this is pretty common for people of any major franchise that give away their creative control to whomever else wants to purchase it.
Which is why I previously stated J.K. Rowling won't sell her IP.
Yes, exactly. So it's just another interesting case of that, and with something as high profile as Star Wars, of course, I think this will resonate with a lot more people. I find it really fascinating that some of the hate, unfounded or not, for the sequel trilogy has made people retroactively not hate the prequel trilogy so much. It's like we have this sense of nostalgia for that prequel trilogy that maybe people hated at the time, but now they're thinking, hey, well, Lucas isn't so bad. He's the original creator. Like, oh, this whole situation is really kind of tragic. So I just think it's really interesting how people are coming around to the prequel trilogy as part of this process also, whereas before they might have hated it. So does that make them hypocritical? I don't know. That's a conversation for another
No,
time,
I just think they have something they hate more.
Yeah, I think so.
Because I think if you ask people to still critique the prequel trilogy, they got criticisms.
They're going to have some hot takes on Jar Jar still.
I think they just have some hot takes on this prequel trilogy, or the sequel trilogy, which I feel is very warranted. Just like I do believe that the criticisms on the prequel is warranted as well. I've always been one of the people that I like episode 2 and 3 a lot. I've never been a huge fan of episode 1.
Okay.
And A New Hope?
No,
the
actual
Phantom
Menace.
Yeah.
But I've always been a big Attack of the Clones fan.
Yeah.
And I think Revenge of the Sith is great.
Yeah.
So,
well, we all grew up with those movies too.
Right.
Like we all would have been roughly the same age, give or take a couple years. But we were the target demographic when the prequel trilogy came out in theaters.
Yeah.
So that will always have a special place in my heart, even though, rewatching them as an adult, sure, you can pick them apart if you want, but what's the point? They're fun movies. It's something that's still set in the Star Wars universe, which has been such a fundamental part of my life. So, I don't know. I just thought it was really interesting to see Bob Iger directly comment on those conversations with Lucas. And also, I think I might have talked about it a long time ago, but a good case study of this, if you will, is from Rick Riordan, who wrote the Percy Jackson series, which they made into a pretty unsuccessful couple of films.
Lightning Thief, right?
Yes,
Got it.
correct. So if you want to learn more about what happens when a author, in this case, gives up creative control, go check out a blog post that he wrote. This was from 2018, but you can go to rickriordan.com, published it 11/16 of 18. I just find it really interesting. It was titled Memories from My TV Movie Experience. So I won't talk about that more, but I just find it, like I said, almost a case study, if you will.
Is it
someone
TV
who comments on it.
Movie experience?
Yeah, so he titled his
two.
blog post titled his blog post Memories from My TV/Movie Experience.
Okay.
So he might have had other conversations maybe about a television series. In that blog post, it primarily focuses on him giving up his creative control to the people who were developing the Percy Jackson movies.
Okay.
But I find it really interesting, really, really fascinating about how these people will try to retain somewhat of their creative control and offer their opinions on these scripts, because a lot of the time they get sent the script. So they can read through the script and then they'll submit their suggestions for what they want to have changed. And as the original creator, you would think that now the people in charge of the movie would consider that as a probably pretty important piece of information. And time again, we can see that's not the case. That people in charge of the movie, or maybe a TV series, whatever the case may be, whoever's acquired the rights are going to kind of do their own thing.
If you own the rights to the IP, you can switch it around.
Do whatever you want.
And let's be fair.
Yeah.
It's not to say that the original trilogy doesn't have problems. It's
Right.
just
Yeah.
we hold it in the highest esteem compared to the sequel and the prequel.
Yeah, exactly.
It's an interesting concept to think, though, like people purchase those rights based on popularity, right? The popularity is already there, and then they're there to make their own creative directors to change that. Why would you change that to any degree if you already know that there's a populace base that's intrigued by it, right?
Yeah, and I think that it is baffling, because the most successful versions of other properties, whether they're brought to the big screen, whether they're translated to television, whatever the case may be, are, I think, when they stick as close to the book or core material as makes sense. Lord of the Rings, for example. The Hobbit, they started to stray from that. You can see how that went.
Harry Potter,
another great example. Like, these are things where they honored the core material. They made changes that, make sense. Lord of the Rings, for example. Aragorn doesn't have Anduril, his sword reforged in the first movie. In the first book, The Fellowship of the Ring, he does. Well, it makes thematic sense. It's kind of cool to see him finally get his sword in Return of the King thematically in a movie, right? So subtle changes like that, and I'm sure people would disagree with me on it, but some things make sense.
Sure.
Other things, though, when they completely throw, to your point, Nate, completely throw so much of the plot, character development, everything that made people fall in love with that story, and they throw it out the window. Like, well, yeah, of course it's not gonna do well. Like, I don't know what they're thinking at that point in time.
There's so many times where you watch a movie and you're just like, okay, this is powerful. Like, but how did it become powerful? Or like you're missing the A to B situation. I think that Kim's like it's a huge displacement between conversions between books and movies, where they skip plot points and they're just like, yeah, this is powerful now. But you miss that. Like, why is it?
Yeah. Very true.
What beer are you on?
I don't know. You're supposed to keep track.
I lost count. But I can tell you're well on your way there as you get deeper.
and I feel like a lot of
like
people listening in are really resonating with me right now.
If you're still listening. Yes. Joe, do you have anything else to finish up before we get to recommendation corner?
Last thing, you mentioned it to me, Garrett, so I hope I don't steal your thunder here. Laura Dern, Sam Neill, Jeff Goldblum returning for Jurassic World 3 is the word on the street. Very cool. More to come for that, I'm sure.
Okay.
I want to throw it out there.
Recommendation corner, Nate. Hit them.
Borderlands 3. Still killing it.
Nice.
I'm in the mid-30s for level-wise with Flack still.
Nice, dude.
I don't have a lot of free time. Proud of me. Still trying to kill it.
Okay.
I will say, like, I don't know that this is the right choice, though, for me. Like, the AI with the creature is just like, he never attacks what I want him to attack. He never listens to me. It's a lot like my wife and daughter. It's a lot like real life. And the whole point of video games is to escape real life. So don't choose Flack if you want to escape from real life.
Gotcha.
Yikes.
I
feel like if you want to feel powerful, choose Mara, the siren.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah, this is a little bit of personal life spread out on the table for you.
Project it.
Go ahead, Joe. Hit him with a recommend. Oh, did you already recommend?
Hopefully lighter than what I just laid out.
Sorry, you said did recommend Jurassic Park?
Oh yeah, I was just throwing that out there. No, that wasn't my official recommendation, though.
Right,
that was
ahead.
just my random movie fact at the end
okay.
here. But no, his official recommendation, Gears 5. Also a video game, but I'm greatly enjoying that right now.
Nice.
So you guys should check it out.
Really?
I think it's a good continuation of the story. Everything you love about your other Gears titles is, of course, back for this one. Really solid multiplayer, horde mode. If you're a Gears fan, who the hell doesn't love horde mode? That mode's fantastic.
Yeah.
So it's a great game. Really enjoying it so far.
And my recommendation, a couple weeks ago, I think it's 2-3 weeks ago, Joe Rogan Experience podcast episode, Dan Aykroyd. Go out and listen to this thing. This is great. It's
JRE.
2 hours of phenomenal content. Dan Aykroyd is drinking the entire time. He starts off talking about the crystal skulls. He goes into what drugs he's used. He goes into mediums and alien landings and abductions. And man, it was the best. I came into work, 30 minutes in this episode, and said, Joe, you need to check this thing out. It is the best episode of a podcast I've ever listened to.
I don't think he cracks a single smile.
No. I didn't even watch
The seriousness is ridiculous.
I didn't watch the YouTube version of it, so I can't see him. I know at one point, after dropping a ton of knowledge on alien abductions and alien invasion, like alien landings, Joe Rogan makes the comment, you don't even have notes in front of you to Dan Aykroyd. He goes, yeah, no, I don't. He just knows everything. And it's
off the top of his head.
The Dan Aykroyd, it was great.
How old do you think Dan Aykroyd is now?
60s, 70s? 70s?
Early 70s?
Probably. Yeah,
I'm just saying.
I think
At
so.
the end of the podcast, to talk about Ghostbusters 3, which is coming.
Yep.
But I'm just saying, the first 90 minutes of this podcast are great. So go out there, listen to that. So anything else before we put this episode to bed and Nate to bed?
I'm good night.
Okay.
I think we're good.
Perfect. Well, we want to thank you guys for listening. Go out, hit the 5-star button, leave us a review. Tell your friends, tell your mom, tell Nate's mom.
Don't you dare.
Get a hold of us on Twitter at Alien and Cowboy. Email us at aliensandcowboys@gmail.com with any comments, questions, feedback. In the next week or so, by the end of the month, Joe and I are hoping to put out the review of V for Vendetta.
Yep.
On the Watchmen for Nixon podcast.
One of my greatest movies.
Yep.
I love it.
Maybe we'll let you on that one. We'll see.
Fingers crossed.
You're hungover. Don't forget, the Watchmen starts October 20th, and you can follow us along, Joe and I, as we break that down every week for the Watchmen for Nixon podcast. But until then, we'll see you guys next week. Cheers.
Cheers.
Cheers. Positive feedback, bitches.